Und für die natürlich gleich, wenn ich hier weg bin, ein Riesenapplaus, weil die werden ganz viele tolle Sachen zeigen, die wir normalerweise übrigens auch bislang nur der Presse gezeigt haben. Also ihr seht so eine andere Tugend später, die es so noch nie zu sehen gab öffentlich. Also es wird auf jeden Fall spannend und das Spiel ist sowieso wundervoll. Kommt am 14.09. raus. Nicht vergessen, jetzt viel Spaß mit den 4 Menschen rechts von mir.
Thank you very much, Thorsten. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft's defining moment. My name is Riley Brennan. I'm with Square Enix, and I've brought with me 3 very special guests from the Shadow of the Tomb Raider team. We're very excited to be here at Gamescom this week. Just by a show of hands, did everybody get a chance to play the game, get a chance to check it out at the booth? Thank you very much for experiencing what we've been working very hard on. We're just a few short weeks away from the release of the game. And let's start off by meeting our very special guest here. We'll start off with Dan. Dan, why don't you tell us who you are, your role on the team, and a little bit of what you've brought to the game.
My name is Daniel Chaillet-Bisson. I am game director or creative director of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, what's Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the game about Lara's defining moment. You'll see her at apex. She's going to be powerful, confident. She will become one with the jungle. She will traverse through these treacherous places to get to this magnificent but terrifying tomb. She will be facing the most deadly and brutal world she ever faced before. That's what Shadow of the Tomb Raider is.
Thank you, Dan. And next up we have Jill. Jill, why don't you tell us about your role on the team and a little bit about what you've done?
Sure. I'm Jill Murray. I'm the lead writer for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and we're bringing you a more heartfelt, emotional story than ever before in the trilogy. We find Lara at the height of her powers, chasing down Trinity, trying to stay ahead of them, get to the artifact. As soon as she takes it, though, she realizes she's made a huge mistake in the form of setting off the apocalypse. She therefore needs to define her heroism in response to having made this mistake and find a new way forward and find like a deeper way of becoming the Tomb Raider.
And finally, we have Rich. Rich, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role on the team?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rich Briggs. I'm the Senior Brand Director at Crystal Dynamics, and it's really exciting to be here and talk about Lara's defining moment, as Dan and Jill have both talked about. You know, we started with Lara in 2013 in Tomb Raider, being young, inexperienced, really trying to make her mark in the world, and she discovered that when her back was against the wall, she had what it took to become a survivor. Moving into Rise of the Tomb Raider, this was about discovering the legend within, about daring to go further, and so Lara put herself in harm's way in order to stop Trinity. She felt like she was one of the few people in the world who could survive in these brutal environments, so she went to Siberia because of that. And now, here we are in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Lara is at the height of her skills. She thinks, the only person that can stop the Maya apocalypse, but what she's really going to learn is that there are consequences to her actions. She is going to understand that achieving her destiny, becoming the Tomb Raider she's meant to be, also comes with a certain responsibility. So it's really exciting to share that with you guys.
Now, you saw the trailer. I'm sure most of you saw that back at E3. We're going to take you through a number of different videos here that highlight some of the different things in the game. We're going to let the team kind of talk you through, make some points, really just immerse you in this world that they've created. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some questions from everybody in the audience. So let's go ahead. We're going to roll our second clip. This is the hidden city of Paititi.
So right off the bat, what's really exciting about Paititi is that this is the absolute largest hub that we have ever built in a Tomb Raider game. So for all you completionists out there, if you want 100% Shadow of the Tomb Raider, this is where a lot of your work is going to be required, because it has side quests, as you would expect. It has something that we call social puzzles. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It has collectibles. But most importantly, it's filled with challenge tombs. So Paititi is an absolutely huge space to explore.
And the initial pitch for Paititi, which is interesting because when we start talking about this place, the initial pitch was, what if Lara would, think that she will find, the most special place in the world, which is the special tombs, because she's used to find dead people. She used to find places where it's about death. And the initial pitch was like, what if Lara would find this El Dorado, this city of gold called Paititi, and find it thinking it's a tomb? And actually, she goes there and see that people are still alive and untouched by modernity. What would she do? What would she say?
And Jill, I love the story that you guys have crafted, like all this environmental storytelling as well as the actual narrative that takes place in PyTT.
Sorry. I can't.
Right down here, there's
Yeah, you can look right here. There you go.
It's a nice busy day at the market. I was thrown because usually we stop and pet the llama, and we didn't pet the llama.
No, we're gonna.
We'll get to that. Don't spoil the
This is what
llama
happens when
petting.
we change the videos.
We're gonna pet the llama. Don't worry, and that's not code. That's you actually have a llama that you can pet in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Multiple llamas. Do we have a count
There's
on
a
how
lot
many
of it.
llamas there are? Is there? Do we know? Is there like 5 llamas, 10 llamas?
I'm not going to say it.
We don't want
You
to
don't
give
know?
away
We have
the
to
something
spoilers.
related to
find
that.
all the llamas. Actually, it was a funny story, and this may be going off script a little bit, but I remember it was about 6 months into the development of the game, so we're talking a couple of years ago now, and Dan was pitching, he was talking about his idea that, they'd really figured out what they wanted to do with Lara's journey, and Dan said, I need a game where you can have all these emotional moments, where you can discover a living city, and in it you can do things like hug a child for no reason, or even pet a llama. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. And about a year later, when we actually had PyTT on the screen, and Dan was like, look at all the people, and there was a moment where Lara could hug a child. And I was like, but Dan, where is the llama? And he was like, give me 3 months. And 3 months later, you can pet a llama.
But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. People actually really love that because, from the origin story, you normally shoot the animals. In this case, you actually could touch it and having an emotional connection with the world. So it's not just, running around and killing things or things like that. It's really about discovering that world and understanding it and having, human connection. It's not just about talking, but it's also about connecting physically with it.
Yeah, and I really
Like
liked,
that.
and that was a big part, I know, because in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, this idea, as Dan said, of discovering a city that was untouched by modern civilization, but having these respectful, very meaningful relationships in there, having interactions that were about Lara, as you can see here, bartering with a merchant. We have a completely new economy system, in terms of how you're getting weapon parts and how you're getting what you can actually give them. Your collectibles are worth something to this civilization. But also really making sure that we had things like the social puzzles, right? And having it so that you need to speak with people and understand what they're looking for, and then maybe they send you off in another direction and you have to talk to someone else and you have to unite these people or whatever the case may be. But at the end, you come out realizing, okay, I just found a challenge tomb. So there's always a meaningful reward, but completely optional.
And it's about, you're saying, it's meaningful reward based on human connection, because this is not, it's not a space where we have a 5-star system. When you run and you have to cool down and stuff. It's really about tomb raiding. It's really about this connection you have with this world. And like we always talk about, the world is our secondary character. It's not just a secondary character that tries to kill you all the time. There's moments of reprieve like that where the more you learn, the more you exchange with them, the more it deepens the emotional connection with that world and feeling more real and feeling that Lara is also more real on that level.
Jill, what about the immersion mode and some of the things that you went into the storyline there, and how does that really draw the player into this game?
Sure. So PyTT is actually situated in Peru, but hundreds of years ago, people sought refuge here from as far north as what's now Mexico. So we can see accents of Maya, Inca, and even Aztec civilizations in the architecture and the clothing, and especially in the language, where we can hear a lot of spoken Maya. And what you'll be able to do with immersion mode is choose whether to hear the languages of PyTT in the original Maya, for full immersion, or if you prefer to hear it in your own language, you'll be able to select that as well. And it's controllable. It's totally up to you.
And I love that this is basically us trying to respond to what our community asks for, in terms of really going on an adventure with Lara. So the immersion mode is a great example of that. One of the other things that was a huge fan request was the ability to adjust the difficulty on the environment, because some fans really, really want Lara to be truly lost. They don't want to have the white markings on the cliffs telling you where to jump, where to run, what you can hang on to. I've tried it, and it makes the game so much more difficult, but those fans will be happy to know that you can absolutely turn off those white markings. And we decided to take it one step further and separate them. So you have independent sliders for the combat, for the navigation, and then for the puzzles. So if you want a super strong challenge on combat where your health never regenerates and enemies have tons more protection and are smarter and there's less resources, you can have that while at the same time having easy puzzles where Lara will talk to you and give you hints about what you have to do next. Same thing, if you want white markings because you just want to know, how can I get through this area quickly? I kind of want the story mode. You can turn on all the markings on the navigation, or you can turn them completely off and then just drop yourself into an environment and have no idea what you can interact with. So we give you those options.
The great consequence of all that, which is funny because when you put that all together, it gives you something, and we call it the immersion mode for the language and everything. But having this difficulty also enhances the sense of immersion, because when you don't have white paint, you feel you're actually there, and it's the same thing when you are doing a puzzle. You actually feel that you are there yourself solving it. So it's really empowering the sense of immersion and how you feel that you actually are there, and appreciating the music. There's a lot of things like that we didn't realize at the moment, but after it was there, people felt in the playtest, or they said, wow, we felt that this is the most immersive version of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, so when you are there with Lara and it says lost in the jungle, you really will be lost in the jungle. You can turn off the markers, you can turn off survival instincts. So I think it's a great thing, and like Dan said, if you want that super high degree of difficulty, you can have it, but more importantly, it gives you control. So that's something that we really like. And one of the things here we're showing is Warrior's Trial. I don't want to skip over this because we're going to show a little bit more of this later, but this is the challenge tomb, one of the challenge tombs that's in the PyTT hub. And the great thing, in my opinion, or one of the great things about the tombs is that, if you guys remember in Rise of the Tomb Raider, we had crypts, and then we had challenge tombs and regular tombs. Well, now the crypts are as big as the challenge tombs used to be in Rise of the Tomb Raider, and the challenge tombs are now as big as many of the tombs were in Rise of the Tomb Raider. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider has larger and more tombs than ever before.
We saw just a few moments ago some of the deadly traps in the game. Yeah. Dan, talk about how you designed these, what some of the inspiration was into it, and maybe the story about one of our designers and some of the toys he had in the office.
Yes, we have one of the designers which is an hybrid between a designer and an artist, and what he loves to do is creating puzzles and traps and all this. And what he do is that he actually builds them physically. So we actually see them before getting into the game. We see them working on his desk, and he's really working with that with Lego techniques and a lot of things with sticks and glues. And so the thing he does that is magnificent, and that's why our tombs, our puzzle feels so grounded. It's because he does extensive research of what would the Mayan technology would be. They didn't build that, but if you're stretching it and saying they had the technology to build something like that. So we missed it. But one of the things that makes it different is that when you get there, because when we were, for example, on Rise of Tomb Raider, was all about ascension, and it was about climbing up and touching God, because it was a Byzantine culture. In this case, we're exploring the Mayan culture, and we're going down because it's a celebration of death. It's going down, it becomes much more terrifying, because it's much more claustrophobic and darkness, and that's why the underwater is also a key part of this game. And the traps and everything makes the tomb terrifying, but not just terrifying in terms of tone, but how deadly they are. Because before that, on Rise, we had some deadly tombs, we call them like that, but not the things you were interacting was trying to kill you, not the animals that were trying to kill you. So, all the things inside of there try to kill you. So that's the element that makes it exciting as you solve puzzles and understanding and reading. And this is something we feel that it represents where Lara is in her arc, a certain point.
So Rich talked about Warrior's Trial. Why don't you go ahead and set up this next clip, which is going to take us through that part of the game.
Absolutely. So we aren't going to show you the whole thing because we know you guys like to discover these things on your own. So but we do want to take you further into the Warrior's Trial than we've ever done before. So you saw a little bit of it there at the end. But this is basically, when we say that the tombs are terrifying, this is what we mean. Because Lara is at the height of her skills. She is more capable than ever before. So in order to give you and Lara a challenge, we have to make sure that we are increasing the stakes at every other stretch, along every other pillar. So this is an example of terrifying tombs.
Peggy 18.
Of course, we're going to start with the high dive, though. This is obviously a fan favorite.
Jill, why don't you talk about the garb that Lara's in this scene here?
Sure, you'll notice she's wearing a different outfit than her usual tank top and boots. That's because PyTT, there are two factions that are in conflict with each other. One is the cult of Kukulkan, the other is the rebels. And Lara and the rebels sort of establish early on that they have some common interests and enemies. This is what helps them become friends. And so they're the ones who have given her the outfit that she's wearing. You do also have the opportunity at all of the shops around PyTT to purchase sort of like pieces of outfits in various states of repair that you can restore to be able to get basically gameplay benefits from them, kind of like wearable artifacts.
And this is showing some of the new skills that Lara has. So we talked about increasing the odds against her across all facets of the game. And this is really an important thing to note, because across the entire Tomb Raider franchise, as Dan said, the world's a character. We look at the world as protecting its secrets, that the lost truths of history are protected in these very, very inhospitable environments. And Lara's one of the few people with the skills and the will to be able to go in, survive in those environments, and discover those secrets. I mean, that really is what tomb raiding is to Lara, is uncovering the secrets of history. But the world protects those secrets because it doesn't really feel like mankind is ready for it. So humanity needs people like Lara to not just find but also protect these truths. And so Lara is being pushed back as hard as ever by the world. So we've increased the traversal, we've increased the underwater so that you can full 360-degree movement. You have to manage your oxygen. You could see that she was using a rappel. She's got a wall run. So there's a lot of new techniques that Lara has at her disposal in order to make her way through the environment, but it just also makes it much more challenging.
And here you can see there's always, the things are turning, the things are moving. There's a specific speed to that. There's balance for a normal difficulty. So if you're playing easy, the actual timing of the things that is moving around will be slower, giving you more time to solve the puzzle and read the environment and really understanding all the mechanics and gears of the puzzle. But if you're playing hard, not only we're not going to tell you anything about, Lara's not going to say, I'm going to have to do this. She's going to say nothing. Nothing is highlighted. But also the timing of the movement, the timing of the thing is way faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the one thing that we won't see in the videos, so I can touch on it briefly, while Lara's activating the puzzle, is the combat. That also has Lara at her most skillful that she's ever been. And we make sure that, Lara always uses her advantages. It's like Dan said, becoming one with the jungle. Trinity has her outnumbered, they have her outgunned, and so she has to learn how to strike like a jaguar, disappear, so that Trinity doesn't know where she's coming from next. She uses fear in combat. She can put a toxin on her arrows that will cause enemies to hallucinate and start to fight each other. She can cover herself in mud and then hide more easily in vine walls and use better stealth tactics. And the thing that I perhaps like best is, now if you break stealth, if you evade the enemies long enough, retreat up into the canopy, you can actually get back into stealth after they've discovered you. So that was something that our fans really wanted to be able to re-engage on stealth, so we did that as well.
And the overall theme when we're thinking about these new mechanics that we have, whether it's about combat or traversal or exploration or anything you're going to do, is showing that Lara, she's in control. That is one of the things that was always through the lens. Is she's in control in combat? Is she in control when she's traversing? And that's why we have, before that, if you remember, if you played Rise or Tomb Raider 2013, if you wanted her to go down, we had to have her fall, because that was the mechanic. So having, the rappel down, the movement, it providing a whole sense of control, which is appropriate with the Lara that we have
Yeah.
right now.
Lara's making the choice to descend.
Yeah.
And that's really a theme of the entire game. Lara is choosing to descend because she thinks this is what needs to be done in order to destroy Trinity and stop the Maya apocalypse. But then you realize that Lara also has to realize how to ascend, how she has to climb out of her own shadow, if you will. You know, the term Shadow of the Tomb Raider means a lot. It's not just about the shadow. It's not just about the darkness of the jungle and the eclipse. It is also about the shadow that Lara has internally. You know, this is her conflict. This is her duality, trying to not become the monster that she is fighting against. She doesn't want to turn into Trinity, but at first she's thinking, I have to do whatever's necessary. I have to stop the Maya apocalypse, you know, at all costs, and I'm the only one who can do it. And that's one of the things, you know, Jill, what I love about that story is like that conflict that she has with Jonah over this.
Yeah, because the same way Lara has sort of evolved her skills over the last 3 games, Jonah has also really come into his own. And in Shadow especially, we see that he has his own way of doing things. He's more social, he's connected to people, he has an easy time talking to them, in contrast to Lara, who's always been crawling around in tombs and is, I would say, much more of an introvert. And so we have these really great moments where we can see their friendship, how it's strong, but also how it is strained when these 2 opposing viewpoints come together. But because we have things like the open hub and PyTT and our other hubs, they really do need to not exactly, well, they're already working together, but Lara maybe needs to learn some of Jonah's skills to get by, and that's interesting to watch.
I mean, it makes it really powerful when you see Jonah, who has been at Lara's side since the beginning of this origin story, to see him in such conflict with Lara that he is telling her it's not about you. The fact that their relationship is so strained by her drive. She is so, you know, obsessed with pursuing Trinity that she's pushing everyone, including Jonah, away. And that's also one of the themes, like we said. She's choosing to descend, but then she realizes that's not the way forward. That's not what becoming the Tomb Raider means. And we don't want to spoil what that means, but there is a lot of meaning to us in terms of that phrase. And Lara will discover what the responsibility is and what her destiny is and what it means to become a Tomb Raider.
So that brings us to our next clip, and we wanted to bring something new here to Gamescom this week, and maybe Dan can set up the Trial of the Eagle for you.
The Trial of the Eagle is Lara, to find PyTT, she needs to go through multiple trials. There's a trial of a jaguar, there's a trial of a spider, and there's a trial of the eagle. The Trial of the Eagle is a very special trial because this is one of the most, I would say, one of the most epic, when you look at it from a world perspective, it's one of the epic puzzles and open air tomb that you will find, because this is the gate that actually protects the entrance of PyTT. The reason why no one ever found PyTT in a certain way, in terms of the modern civilization, is because it's very hard to get there, and you really need to go through all these steps. And this is something that, in terms of conception, when we was thinking about it, we wanted to use, yes, the physics, because this is all driven by physics, the wind physics, how it works, but also, you know, challenging the way you move, locomotion, traversal, but also the way you would be using your brain. So we test the 2 things, your skills and your brain. So, and it gives a sense of epicness when you go there.
All right, let's take a look.
Peggy 18.
So as Dan was saying, this is basically an open-air tomb. And one of the things that I love about Trial of the Eagle, in addition to that narrative fiction that Dan was just talking about, is I think probably this is one of the best examples of the entire game of really seamlessly integrating traversal and the challenges with traversal, with a tomb, with puzzles, and with traps. Like, this all comes together. I mean, obviously you have traps and puzzles and challenge
there's nothing
tombs.
else you want to throw at these guys?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just love it because it's so elegant, because you feel like you are basically making your way through history. Like this, when we talk about living history, moving history, you can just imagine the environmental storytelling that went into building something like this, of this was created by people using the technology they had at their times. But the fact that if you make a misstep, you're either going to fall or you're going to get caught by one of the moving pieces. So it really is, I think, a very challenging but also very, very Tomb Raider bit of the game.
And it's a very good celebration, a very good uses of the rappel mechanics and the wall run, which is, is very new to our game. The open air have provided a very good feeling, and this is the puzzle place, because the tomb itself extends a little bit before, extends after. So this is actually a little bit bigger than that. There's also another challenge. I'm not going to reveal, spoil anything, but there's another small challenge that is part of that. So this is a feeling of the puzzle room itself.
And I will say that anytime you see Lara take out her bow, if you don't want a little bit of a spoiler on how to solve a puzzle, just close your eyes, okay? I just want to be sensitive to anyone who wants to solve this on their own, because this does have a little bit of sneaker. So like right there, if you don't want to see what to do, just close your eyes for a second. No one will think you're scared. There's nothing scary in this tomb. And then when you hear something moving, then you know you can open your eyes again.
But if you've seen it, you can put it hard after that, and it's going to be...
You can put it hard, yeah, it'd be much more difficult timing, that's true. And plus, this actually takes place a fair amount into the game, so you probably forget about the solution by the time we get here.
Dan, talk about the design that went into a puzzle like this.
It's a very complex design, because one of the things we start thinking about when we're building a tomb or a design of a puzzle, the first thing we always think about is what is the world is telling us? What is the world trying to do and trying to tell, and how does it interact with Lara? Because the world and Lara always have a dialogue, and like we said, the world is a secondary character. And the actual tomb is talking to Lara, and that's why there's a language, and the players understand that language and interacts with it. So we always think about what it's trying to tell us. And then when we do that, when we have this, we call that environmental storytelling, when we have this world, a story of that world, then we go like, okay, what do we challenge? What we want to challenge Lara? Because like you said previously, the tomb doesn't want to be discovered, doesn't want to be solved. So it creates something because it tests Lara. For her to get to Paititi, she needed to pass the test. That's why it's called the Eagle Trial. And when we think about that, we say, what is the test? And then at that moment, because it's a little bit later in the game, we know that we can test your sense of timing, the sense of precision, the sense of logic, the sense of the new mechanics. And then we're like, okay, if it's the eagle, then, because we're talking about that, then it must be about height.
Mm-hmm.
Must
and
be about scale.
All the wind.
And
like
wind,
I love knowing the elements of the wind to solve the puzzle.
And it's almost like, the way you feel it, it's almost like it's an eagle with, its wing is not spread. It's down. And then the goal, I'm saying that the answer in certain
Are you going to say something
I'm spoiling it right now.
Are you going to say something as awesome as is to make the eagle spread its wings and fly?
Yes.
Was that what you were
fly.
going towards?
But the tomb doesn't go away. But
Dan, you are the wind beneath my wings.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So at the end, when we have something that feels like right, and we have it because it's always in a rough block, and we have the sense of scale, and because the funny things about tomb, and this is something very very important to point out, is that yes, people love the puzzle, but a lot of people, they just love to get into a tomb. They just love going to a place where no one ever went. Look at the ancient technology and just admire that space. And this is that's why it's super important to not just, build everything around the puzzle, but also the world be as important as the puzzle it is. Because it's a two things, it's a two-thing things, meaning the puzzle and the world surrounding it.
I also like that this really does give you the impression that Lara is one of the few people that is worthy of discovering the secret of the lost city of Paititi. Because again, we call these trials because it's meant to weed out the people that are not able to handle that truth. Again, the world is saying, I have these secrets, and very few people can make it to that secret, and Lara is one of those few people. So I always love it when we show Lara, being that brilliant archaeologist. That is what she is at her heart. She is a brilliant archaeologist. She can push herself beyond the mental, physical, emotional boundaries that most humans have and do what needs to be done.
She's one of the only people with the skills and abilities to pull this off.
Exactly.
So we showed you a lot of exploration. As Rich said, there's still a lot of combat in the game that we didn't have a lot of the videos today. But now we'd really love to open up the floor to everyone here. I think we've got a microphone that we can get set up. And if you do want to ask a question in German, Thorsten's happy to translate for us. So let us know what you'd like to know about Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, if you want to raise your hand, Thorsten will make his way to you if you've got a question. We can't have been that thorough. There have to be at least
right here,
one or two questions. Okay, there we go.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, did you or the team ever visit a tomb for the inspiration, or where did you get all these inspirations?
That's good.
I didn't understand the question.
Did you visit a tomb?
Yeah, because you guys took a trip down to Mexico.
Yes, okay. If I would be visiting Tomb, I think I would not come up with it because I'm not Lara Croft. I would have stayed there. I'm not as smart as her, sadly. But I would say yes, we did visit Peru. I went to Cozumel, and we did send a team there. We also just information. We scanned some of the trees in the jungle, and that's why they feel so real in the game, because we call that photogrammetry. So we for sure, it was important for us that it was not just a Wikipedia project. You know, you read what's happening on the net, Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia, but you know, it has to be about experiencing firsthand. Yeah. Going to Machu Picchu or going to these places and touching it and feeling it and breathing it was also very important for us. Taking pictures, a lot of it. So, of course, you know, people, when you send people there, they're happy and everybody wants to go, but there's always a specific team that moves there and have a specific goals. So it was important for us that we are as respected as possible, because when we build this space, we want the player to feel as if they were there. So they were so real, because anything that will feel odd or, you know, you feel that doesn't have a place there will take out you from the immersion.
Yeah.
And it was very important for us that it feels as real that it can be.
Welcome.
Noch jemand eine Frage?
Thank you very much for this amazing introduction for the game. And why this game will be better than any Tomb Raider. I'm very excited for it.
Thank you. Well, I think that there are lots of things to love about Tomb Raider 2013, as well as Rise of the Tomb Raider. The thing that I really like about Shadow of the Tomb Raider is it's not just going to reward the fans who have been there from the very beginning, that they can see sort of the culmination of Lara Croft's origin story, but because it is her defining moment, it's a great jumping on point for anybody. If you haven't played the previous games, although there is still time, you can go back, you can get them. But the thing that I think really elevates it is because it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that if Lara is at her most skilled, her most capable, that means that we have to up the stakes across the board. So when you think about the narrative, it's the Maya apocalypse. It is the fate of humanity at stake. We've never had such a world, you know, in peril situation before. When you think about the combat, this is Lara at the height of her skills. We're giving you all these different powers to let you become one with the jungle, take advantage of it, because Trinity is bringing their A game. They've got better technology, better soldiers than ever before. If you think about the tombs, they are more brutal, more terrifying than ever before, but Lara also has more tactics in order to navigate them and navigate the world. So we really are trying to just increase the stakes across all the pillars of the game.
Can I add something?
You may.
I wanted to say that we have, I think, a very interesting antagonist. He is in every way Lara's equal. His army is a lot larger, however. But he's someone that really belongs to the world. And when you hear about his reasons for behaving as he does, you, I think, really start to understand his perspective. And you get the sense almost that he could be the protagonist of his own story. So as he gets into Lara's head, he also gets into your head as you play. And I think that's super fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Noch eine Frage? Es gibt noch ganz viele schöne Fragen übrigens, die man stellen kann.
All right, this side of the room is doing well. This side, you guys start thinking up some questions. You got some time.
Thanks for your presentation, and my question is a little bit weird, but why are the people of Paititi worshipping Kukulkan and not any other god?
These people have evolved as a society together in complete isolation for hundreds of years. So their customs are really all their own. As to exactly why they're worshiping Kukulkan, you'll need to play the story to find out.
Yeah, but I would also say that this is similar to what Dan was talking about, where the team went to Peru and took inspiration. You know, we are not trying to tell a historically accurate game in this. We are basically taking reference and, as respectfully as we believe we can, painting a story that works with our narrative and the story that we want to tell. So we are absolutely taking references from historic fiction. You know, we call it Googleable myths, as in it's all rooted in real history, but we do take some certain narrative liberties in order to tell the story. And you'll understand, to Jill's point, more of why we do that.
Also, I like to keep it in perspective that it's not history. Like, Lara's not stepping back into the past. These are contemporary people who are alive among us today.
Yes. Exactly. That's the thing, is that there's the Mayan and the Incan and the Aztec. They all merge a certain way, and they you know, it's like having multiple culture, you know, mixing for 400 years. They will share some of the beliefs, and some of the beliefs will be more, you know, more predominant than others. It's a micro, you know, system, micro ecosystem that they have together. So that's something for us that was very important. That, you know, like Jill was saying it very well, is that they've been completely separate from the world, but they've been together for 400 years. Yeah. And we know that the Incan and Mayan and Aztec, they never met, because one's North America and it's South. But we like to play with the what if. What if that would happen? What would that create? What if all these things be together and clash and create something unique? Because that's what we want to deliver to our audience, a unique experience, as real as possible. And that's what we try to do with that.
All right, this side. I know you've got a question. Come on. You can do it.
Bisschen unter Druck setzen.
I believe in you.
I'll go sit there and raise my hand.
Seriously. Or someone from this side go sit on that side.
Right here?
Question.
Okay,
this side wins again. 3 points.
I got a bit of a technical question. How much in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara was modeled with what you earlier said, photogrammetry? How much remodeling was done for this Lara? Obviously, she looks a bit more.
Well, we actually don't use photogrammetry on Lara.
Our characters,
that's for the world. Yeah. So
that's
Lara,
for the environment.
Yeah, for the environment, that's what we use that technical skill for. Yeah, Lara as a model, though, we do obviously always strive to outdo ourselves. So she's the most detailed version of Lara that we've ever made, but it is using a.
We didn't change completely our mesh, for sure. It's not like a complete face or a different face or body. We still used the one from Rise of Tomb Raider. But like you were saying, we amped up the detail. We reworked completely her hair, you know what I mean, to have more detail and things like that. And also, one of the complexity of what we try to do with Lara is that now she needs to be wet and now have mud and all have dirty and some blood and all this super high detail, because that's what we have some, like you were saying previously, and in one of the interviews we had before, the model we have there, it's in-game model. The cinematic you see, it's the in-game model. So we have to have all the, pushing the detail as much as possible. And with the new current technology, HDR and everything has to be super high compared to.
One thing we did change, though, is we made Lara more ripped. Because we realized that if she's going to climb around all over the place, she's going to actually develop some musculature.
Yes,
so if you look, she's got some delts going on. She's got her tris. So I'm very proud of that. Lara's
you are.
Buffed up a little bit.
All right, here's your chance, this side of the room.
Right here we go.
Yes,
yeah.
Perfect.
Du hast sogar 2 Fragen, wenn du möchtest.
First, my English is not the best, so I must say the question in German. Meine Frage ist, in Rise of the Tomb Raider hat man ja gesehen, die letzte Cutscene, dass man die Karte von Mexiko gesehen hat. Kann man, als ihr damals das Spiel entwickelt habt ihr jedenfalls andere Länder als Auswahl gehabt, und wenn ja, welche hattet ihr denn damals?
Okay, so in the end of Rise of the Tomb Raider, you see a map of Mexico. And have you ever thought about, back then, other countries for Lara to visit in Shadow of the Tomb Raider? And if so, which countries were it?
I'm not going to talk about the countries, but we did thought about a lot of places, because each time we're starting working on Tomb Raider, because we have to find a place. And one of the things, because when Rise was ending, we already start conception of Shadow. It's been 3 years and a half I'm on Shadow, and we were talking, me, Rich, and there's another guy, Noah Hughes, creative director on Rise, and we start talking about all that. And at a certain point, when we decided it would be Cozumel, Mexico, he said, "Hey, we should put that at the end." And I was like, "Yeah, that's an awesome idea," and that's how it happened. But we already decided, because when we saw for the first time in a prototype the jungle with Lara, we immediately went like, "Oh my God, this is it. That's the place we need to go."
Yeah, and Dan had this vision of Lara going to a place where every single thing was trying to kill you. And that was the whole point about the jungle. It is one of the most brutal environments. It's one of the deadliest environments. As Dan would always say, you will not starve in the jungle, but something else will get
We'll
you.
eat you, for sure.
Nochmal links vielleicht zum 3:2. Ja, der Mann muss das alleine machen.
Okay, zweite Frage ist, mal angenommen, das Spiel kämpft sehr gut an und die Publisher würden sagen, hey, wir starten jetzt komplett mit einer neuen Trilogie oder über was danach passiert ist. Würdet ihr diese Herausforderung annehmen, und wenn ja, was glaubt ihr, was könnt ihr denn noch besser machen?
Okay, if the game will be amazing and everybody will buy it, which will be, so
when
the game will be
the
amazing,
game is
everybody
amazing.
will buy it. So what do you want to do next, and how do you do it even better?
You're sneaky.
Vacation for me.
Yeah, vacation.
That's the first thing. I need vacation.
I will say right now we're really focused on Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but we like listening to our fans. And so after you guys play it, make sure you're getting on the boards and letting us know what you guys think, because I'm not going to say anything about where the future might go. However, a lot of the stuff that you see in Shadow of the Tomb Raider is because fans asked for it. The immersion, the difficulty, adjustability. We listen to our fans and say, okay, more people wanted swimming, so we're going to give you swimming, but it's underwater survival. So you have to also be careful what you wish for, because we may deliver it in a way that you aren't necessarily expecting. Oh, we have one over here.
There you go. Oh.
Yeah.
Now the side of the room is,
yeah.
What are you guys doing over here? Let's go.
Yeah.
Ich gebe einmal noch hier die Seite, bevor sie wieder ab.
And then she's next. Yeah, we got you next. All right.
Do we have some Easter eggs to expect, like something special, like Mario would be on the wall? Or
The ancient,
I know, bad idea, but
the Mario of the ancient Maya, jumping through time to join us.
Let's just say it wouldn't be a Tomb Raider game without some secrets, but Mario on the wall is probably not one of them.
Probably not.
You need to find it.
We still haven't figured out how many llamas there are in the game yet, Dan. So let's work on that first.
We have the technology.
Yeah. Right here.
Oh, she was. Oh, sorry.
Next one over.
Yep, sorry. Thank you, sir.
Nope.
You'll be next
back.
after that.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
Come on. Oh,
over.
my goodness.
Ah,
All right.
Thorsten.
Wie lange habt ihr an dem Spiel insgesamt gearbeitet? Und was waren so die ersten Schritte bei der Erstellung des Spiels?
How long have you worked on this, and what were like the first steps in the project?
I've been working on Tomb Raider for 8 years now. I've been there since Tomb Raider 2013. I was working with Rich at Crystal Dynamics at the time. I moved mid-production, we call that vertical slice too, mid-production of Rise of the Tomb Raider in Montreal, because I'm first from Montreal. My wife was missing the snow, so we had to go back in the cold. Because California is the worst place you can live, by the way. It's just too beautiful. So, working, how did it all started? I will let maybe Rich talk about that, or
yeah,
I
it's
can
really
talk
interesting.
About it,
yeah, it really starts with a lot of talking and brainstorming.
Yes.
You know, those are some of the most difficult, but also some of the most interesting parts of game development, is because, you know, obviously Dan was leading the team, and you get sort of this. You get a framework of where you know you need to go and where you want to go with Lara, but you know, without going into too much details, because we don't want to spoil things about the story, you know, we have a lot of discussion about what is it that is going to be the theme of the game. And I think that's where it really starts. And so when we talked about like the shadow and the duality and the light and dark and what Lara's going to have to go through over the course of the narrative, a lot of it then folds out of that. And then you take a look at, okay, what is it that we want to keep from Rise of the Tomb Raider, the stuff that we really did well, that we don't really need to change, we just tweak it a little bit. What is it that you want to improve? And then what is the stuff that we just make completely new?
Exactly.
So I would say that you start with that theme and then you look at your pillars.
And for the beginning of all, for 2013, the first question we had was, what would be a more human Lara Croft? What would be a more relatable Lara Croft? And that's what was important for us, because she had great qualities, in the previous games, very great qualities and very good things about her. And we kept that, how strong she is, how smart she is, and things like that. But one of the things we start thinking about, what is humanity and what is being a human being, and it comes with flaws, and it comes with some quirks, bad quirks, and things like that. And we start thinking about what would that be. So throughout the entire trilogy, we're exploring these elements. We are her obsession, to thinking that he's the only one who can do that. But at the beginning of 2013, if you play it, she's super insecure. She doesn't think she can do that herself. Huh? It's like Rot when he says, "You can do it. You're a Croft," and he says, "You're not that kind of Croft." And but she realized after that the plane is not going to save her. Rod's gonna say, no, I'm sorry if I spoiled the 2013, but the plane's not gonna save her, and her friend's not gonna save her. She has to save herself. And this is a pivotal moment in 2013, and also a very important character arc and turning point for the character. And after that, if you take the disc of Shadow and put it in the game, the first hour gives you a very different Lara, a very confident Lara, something that's really different from 2013. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's that.
Finally.
At long last.
Are you also going into virtual reality, that you can walk, kind of like the game in 2013 where you walk into the house?
Yeah, so you're talking about the Croft Manor. We don't have VR in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but we're always looking at technologies and trying to figure out the best way to take advantage of them.
Laura!
It's you!
She's going to ask a question about herself.
Why do you do these things to me?
You know the answer.
Yeah. Just want to ask, will we meet characters that we know?
You will meet characters that you know. And wait, from other games, you mean like Jonah? We've already said, yes, Jonah's in there. So the answer to that is yes. You will meet a character that you know, and we also have other characters that are new that we are keeping the lid on.
It's still no Mario.
So we could choose to either stealth through the jungle or go into open combat. What did you prefer?
If you're asking me, I'm a jaguar.
No, she's asking about the combat dance.
I'm
not
sorry.
you.
I am becoming the jungle. This is my preferred, because you really feel the game. You really feel that you are that kind of Lara, because you can still play like you would be playing at Rise, shooting people in the face and doing all that. But the stealth now and being in control is so empowering. Knowing that Trinity doesn't even know that you are in that space. They think it's the jungle attacking. It's so rewarding and cool that I'm attaching people in trees. It's awesome. I love that. And then people saying, "Oh my God," and they're freaking out and they don't know you're there, because normally they would know, "That's Lara, we need to get her," But now they don't know, and they're like freaking out. Then something happens, go, there's things like that. And I would say that's how I play.
There's other ways to play too. Like, I like to think that I'm a stealth player, but eventually everything goes wrong, and my playstyle is more characterized by panic. And this game takes care of me too, because I can eventually run around, get back into stealth, which is brand new and so great. And there's also, I would say, less, like the balance of gameplay is more balanced across all of the pillars for this version. So if you are a panicky combat player, you can take refuge in more exploration and puzzles.
And I would say that I traditionally like to go through stealth as well, because it's very empowering to sort of become one with the jungle, play with Trinity. They don't know that you're there. But there are a couple moments in the game that I won't spoil but where let's just say Lara becomes extremely empowered. And being the popcorn blockbuster action junkie that I am, those are some of my favorite in the game.
A lot of people love that, yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Hi. Is there an online or co-op mode? And if yes or no, why or why not?
Oh, that's a good question. Way to frame it. You left yourself all sorts of branches
awesome.
for us to go down.
Out of this.
You can't escape.
No, you just can't sneak out.
Yeah. So it's like, is there or is there not? Yes. We have announced that as part of the DLC, you will be able to experience 5 of the 7 challenge tombs with a friend in co-op. So we really wanted to make sure that you could do more of what you wanted to in our DLC. So fans have always said, we want more tombs and we want more story. So each month we will deliver what we call paths. So a new path will give you a narrative wrapper. It will take you to a tomb. You will have side quests associated with that. And then at the end, you'll get a new skill, which will actually let you play the game a different way. You'll get a new outfit, a new weapon, and then 5 of those 7 will be co-op.
And on top of that, we have New Game Plus. So if you finish and you want to come back, you can do that, and there's unlocking things.
Yeah, you bring all your skills with you, and actually there's new ways to play the game when you do New Game Plus.
The world is gigantic. The PyTT and people wants to stay there, and we provide as much gameplay possible for you to go there.
Yeah.
Do you model every side character from scratch like the Maya people? Or do you rework some stuff?
We did model a lot of the characters. Of course, some of them, because of technology, because this is big, this is massive. That's the thing. People want awesomeness, big, beautiful, you zoom in and all that. And for sure, if we want to keep the frame rate, otherwise, because there's, I don't know, like 500 people, I don't remember exactly the number. They say it's the llama. How many llama? I have no idea. There's just a lot of llamas in there.
lot of llamas.
How many people are living there? You couldn't count them. So, of course, we have to use some of the paper doll style for some of the things, but they're so different. You feel like they're different. Different clothing, because we have multiple complex layers. So you will not see, hey, there's 2 brothers there, for example. So the idea is that we can keep the high fidelity, whatever it's because of the hair, whatever it's some clothing, things like that, and feeling a sense that when you're looking at a whole, it is still in frame rate. It doesn't go to 10. So just to give you an example. But yes, there's a lot of characters modeled.
I think we have time for just about one more.
All right.
Bring it home.
Make it a good one.
Are there some DLCs planned? I know some are just announced, but there's a season pass, so are they coming? Are they just coming 1 year later?
No, sorry, yeah, so that's what I was talking about with the paths. So it'll actually start the month after release. So we will have 7 challenge tombs and side quests, 7 outfits, 7 weapons, 7 skills, and you'll get 1 of each of those each month for 7 months, starting in October.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks to our panel here. We sincerely appreciate the support for this character, for this franchise. We have literally, an amazing team in Montreal, plus the team back at Crystal Dynamics working very hard to bring this game to you. And like I said, we're only a few short weeks away, and we hope you enjoyed what you played here this week and enjoy the rest of your Gamescom. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everyone.